Of people with me today. I'm really excited to spend some time with you, so thank you so much for taking the time today to join all of us. First, I have Licia Morelli. So, Licia, if you could just wave to the camera.
Hi.
And Shannon Elhart, if you could give a quick wave. And Lisa Greer.
Hello.
So for the sake of time, we're going to roll right into it because I know everybody probably has a lot on their plate, so I want to make sure that we start on time and end as close to on time as possible. So I want to get everybody introduced, and then we're going to roll right into it. So Licia is, and I'm going to read from what I call my ghetto prompter, which is basically my Word document on the side of the screen. So if I'm looking at the slide, that's why I'm cheating. Licia is an internationally recognized clairvoyant psychic, intuitive coach, and author of the newly released The Lemonade Hurricane. Congratulations, Licia.
Thank you.
Tell us about the book. What's it about and where can we find it?
The book is called The Lemonade Hurricane, A Story of Mindfulness and Meditation. And you can pre-order it on Amazon.com as well as BarnesandNoble.com. And it will be in bookstores near you, hopefully soon. But it's in pre-order mode and it's shipping out in the next few weeks. And it's a story about a brother and sister and how they incorporate mindfulness and meditation. It's a anytime story, and I think your kids will love it.
I think so too. If I had kids, I'm sure they would love it too.
Well, that's true.
Shannon Elhart is a certified life coach, speaker, author, and intuitive with the Akashic Records. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Now, Shannon, what are the Akashic Records and why are they important?
Oh, the Akashic Records are just amazing. Everyone has their own Akashic Record, and it's the history of your soul. So all your lifetimes, all of your experiences. Why it's so important is when you access your Akashic Records, you can ask any question and find direction in your life, like how can I unblock from a certain pattern in my life, or what can I do to move forward with something, or maybe why is this person in my life, what is the purpose of what's happening. And so it really provides you with direction, and my favorite purpose is to use the Akashic Records to help people heal their past, any pain that they're still holding on to.
I love it. I say this all the time, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. I get to work with the coolest people who have the coolest jobs. It's so much fun for me because I'm always learning. So thank you for being here. Lisa Greer, how's business going? Do you see what I did there? Tagline. So Lisa Greer is a strategic consultant, team partner, and podcast and webinar producer. Lisa, you're so talented and truly outstanding at implementing your clients' visions. Tell us what's the key to making that happen.
Oh gosh, put me on the spot. The key is really just I love to organize. I think that's really what the bottom line is. It doesn't matter what the category of business is. It doesn't matter what the project is. I don't care how big and small it is. I kind of go about it in the same way. And it's really, at the core of it, it's all about organizing it and then divvying it up and making sure that people are doing what needs to get done. And that's really, I guess, the bulk of it. I'm really a producer at heart, so it's that whole production aspect, coming at it from that approach, that I just take that to any aspect of my work, and it seems to work. So
I would think you'd also have to be very detail-oriented because there's so many moving parts.
Yeah, there is. And I mean, I have a system, obviously, that I do, and it's super simple, and in the sense that there's 4 key parts to it, and I kind of take that approach. But yeah, detail, of course. And yeah, I don't know how else to answer that question outside of just just make it happen.
Like I just get it done. Okay, so I have some questions, and I thought we'd just have an honest conversation about what we've all learned from the mastermind and being in the program. So I want those of you who are watching us, you can kind of, we're just going to make it like an easy, casual conversation. So I was joking earlier saying that we're kind of like The View except without the cat fighting, and this one actually features a Latina. That's me. So, I just realized that you're all in different groups in the mastermind. So let's start with, what's your favorite thing about the group? And we'll start with you, Licia.
My favorite thing about the group is the dynamics within it. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different entrepreneurial approaches to the businesses that we're doing, meaning we all have different topics, we all have different things that we do. And the beauty of it is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because we constantly are learning from one another of, like, if I have a new idea but I haven't implemented it, somebody else in the group might have already implemented something similar but for a different product or a different service, and then they have ideas in which we can build upon for me to then offer the same, a similar type of offering, but with what I'm offering is the psychic readings or a product that I'm selling. And so what I love absolutely 100% is the fact that the way you are able to sort of put these groups together and lead them helps us build our business rather than always being with sort of the same type of thing. It's really, really a layer cake of information because there's so many different experiences within each group.
Thank you for sharing that. And I will tell you, as a moderator facilitator, I have the same experience because I'm doing each group separately, and even still, I have a different experience every time. How about you, Shannon? What do you like most about your group?
Very similar to what Licia just said. One thing I noticed, and I want to make sure I throw in there, is that I know how you were so strategic in grouping us in our groups and in our accountability partner. And I've really appreciated that because my group too is diverse enough, but the energy there is very, very powerful and welcoming. And I absolutely love every week, getting together in our virtual meetings and you teaching for part of it. Every week I'm taking crazy notes, tons of notes, and with things I can really implement immediately when we get off our call. And then I love the second half of the call when someone's on stage. When someone's on stage and we're focusing on one woman and just what her needs are and what she's looking for. I'm always learning through that, whoever's on stage. I'm always learning through her question and her issue. And then whenever it's my turn, I'm ready. I mean, I'm really well prepared because getting all your brains together to give me ideas and feedback and suggestions has been amazing. I always get off the phone, and there are times I'm like, holy cow, I've got a lot to do. But it's so great because when I get on the call, when I'm in the hot seat or on stage, I'm kind of stuck. I'm looking for some guidance, and I definitely receive.
Oh, that's great. That's great. How about you, Lisa?
Yeah, I joined the mastermind because I needed a group. We're in our online businesses. We tend to get so caught up in running our business that our social life, our contact with other people sometimes suffers. But my family was getting sick and tired of hearing about my business, and I needed someone to talk to about it. And it was lovely because this came around right at the time I needed it. Short of them disowning me, they were trying to be supportive, but they could also only give me so much feedback. So yes, for sure the mastermind gives me that. The Facebook group is phenomenal too because even this morning I needed some feedback on a couple of title ideas. So you're able to quickly throw those out to a group of women that are in the same similar situations as you as far as growing their business. They're able to give you feedback from all these different angles and boom, you're ready to get unstuck and go. And similar to what the other lady said with regards to the accountability partner, that actually was my pleasant surprise. I had jumped in thinking, oh, I'm going to have all these wonderful women in this group. We're going to talk every week. This is great. This is all I need. This is wonderful. But as it turns out, the other half of this, which is the accountability partner, forces me to not just take what I'm learning and be like, oh, okay, I really need to do this someday or one day. But she kind of forces me to be like, okay, by next week, what are we going to get done? And we hold each other accountable. We hold each other's feet to the fire a little bit, which is lovely because I know I wouldn't have gotten as much done without her pushing me. Not in a you got to get this done way, either just a loving hey, I'm supporting you kind of way. So yeah, it's really a great dynamic. So.
Well, and thank you for saying that and about how the groups are put together and the accountability partners, because a lot of that has to do with the quality of the people who are actually in the mastermind, because I can sit and try to group you guys together, but it's really kind of a crapshoot when you don't really know when it gets implemented how people really are going to respond to each other. You hope for the best and you hope that everybody has great chemistry, but when it really starts to happen like it has with this group, it's really extraordinary, the results. that everyone is getting. And what I love is on even a bigger scale, like what you were saying earlier, Lisa, about everyone jumping in to help out. What I've noticed, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this firsthand or just from watching everyone in the group, is that when one person wins, everybody jumps in and celebrates together. And when one person is struggling, everybody jumps in and says, okay, we're going to go through the mud together. And we do. And I love that because that says a lot about the integrity of the group, but also one of the things that's so critical to me is working with people who want to do meaningful work in the world. So by showing up for other people in the mastermind, I think says a lot about how you show up in your business as well. So now each of you were where a lot of our viewers are right now. So you were presented with an opportunity to join a mastermind. So what were some of your concerns and what happened to those concerns once you joined them? Like if you had concerns before the mastermind, what were those and where are those concerns now? So let's start with you, Shannon.
All right, so when I was debating joining your mastermind, as you know, I'll say this with proud humiliation, I had my worst month. I had launched a program and it didn't go as I had hoped it would go, and I was feeling like a failure, even though I don't believe in that. And so I was just not in a good place, and I was wondering, could I even afford this? And is it really going to give me the results that I need? Not even that I want, that I really need, because I was feeling stuck. And it was amazing because the group helped me get unstuck. I've never been more on fire with my business. I had the 2 best months I've ever had. The last 2 months have been amazing. I definitely have gotten great results financially. And a lot of it's networking. Like when my launch went so poorly, I knew I was doing something wrong because it's a fabulous program and it's helping women tremendously, but I'm not communicating it clearly. Well, through the group, I was able to do this networking and find the person who I need to work with and whom I am working with now, and so my next launch is going to be a completely different story. So it's just been very powerful in terms of the networking and the connections and really getting myself back on track. In fact, not just back on track, finally on the right track.
Oh, that's good. That's great. How about you, Licia?
Well, so what I really was looking for, one of my hesitations before joining a mastermind was always, I'll just be honest with you, it was always price and time commitment, and, you know, I felt like I would be signing my life over to the dotted line for the mastermind. And the one thing I always hesitated about was that I knew I had a limited amount of time because of the way in which my business was running and, you know, my life outside my business was going. And when I saw that your mastermind was an hour a week and plus the Facebook group of like you could use it however you needed to, it was all very manageable. And then the icing on the cake was the price point was so manageable. It was like, this is a no-brainer. I didn't necessarily want one-on-one coaching, but I knew I needed a group. I knew I needed a coach. I knew I needed somebody to help me keep me on track. And as I always tell you, Gina, you're always right in everything that you do. And every time you give me an idea, it makes money. So I wanted to be able to work with you ongoing, but I couldn't swing the personal coaching. And long story short, these were my biggest hesitations. But when I saw the price point and I saw the manageability of the time commitment and I saw that it could easily be navigated into the day-to-day of my business, I was like, there is no way I can pass this up because it is exactly what I've been looking for, and I know my business will grow. And in the last several months, I mean, it's blown up. I can't even handle it. And it's because of the ideas you've given me. It's because of your ability to teach. I think that's the other thing, is that you're not just giving recommendations, you're teaching us how to implement them in our business. And the biggest takeaway for me in that hesitation was I have learned how to be a CEO of my business. I have learned how to run a team, how to run a business, and that was also something I needed when I was looking for a mastermind. Like, I didn't need just suggestions. I needed somebody to teach me how to do this, and you've done that.
Thank you. Thank you. How about you, Lisa? Any concerns you had before you signed up, and where are those concerns now?
Yeah, so mine were similar to what they've touched upon as far as price goes. I mean, I'm a single mom with kids, and I've only been in business just over a year and a half now, I guess. And but at the time when I joined, I was just like, I've only got so much money every month coming in, and every dollar is spent and counted for, and how am I going to make this work? But I knew that if I didn't take a leap of faith, really, with the right person, then I was just going to be where I was, 6 months ago. So that was number one. I mean, that was a huge selling point, I have to say, just because we're being full disclosure. The price was right. Then the other part, I mean, I actually found out about you because of Alicia and her post. And her post, I have to mention, was brilliant. But the reason it struck me so much is because I'm a person who gravitates towards people who have what she called, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, quiet success. I was really getting bombarded with a lot of things, 6-figure launches, and the 6-figure thing kept on coming up and over and over. And even though I loved some of the people that were actually using that term, their masterminds were crazy high. There was no way I'd have to, I don't know, sell my something to get into the mastermind. And so I was like, golly, I wish I could have that experience, but I'm going to have to probably wait till I'm further on down the line. And so when I read her post and she talked about you and the fact that you were approaching this not from that angle, that already made me feel like, okay, I got to get to know this girl. And then when I got to talk to you about the mastermind, it was like, please let me in. I want to go in. So it was awesome. I mean, that's really what it was. It's exactly how it happened. It's been just fantastic ever since. So.
Well, and I thank you for sharing that. I think all of you raised a good point about the price, because I know as an outsider, if I saw a $297 a month mastermind, the first thing I would think is, oh, that's too good to be true. I mean, I would easily think, okay, they're either not going to be visible or accessible, or it's just to get me on track and it's a bare bones mastermind. Was that, for any of you, did you have that concern, and what was the outcome, or where is the concern now?
I personally did not have that concern, because you and I met on Skype, and I loved your energy. I just could feel you were going to be there for me. You've actually exceeded my expectations in terms of being there for times when I've had a question or just needed a little nudge in a different direction, and so you've exceeded my expectations. I've been beyond pleased with your support. It's been amazing, Gina. I don't know how you do it, truly. I don't.
Well, I here, and I'll tell you why I brought up the question, is because, as I'm stuttering through it, is because I want people to really understand and know that for me, let me tell you why I started the mastermind. I had a week of 3 people who contacted me about private coaching. At the time, I was only doing private coaching and was completely satisfied working one-on-one. I had no desire to work in a group setting. But I had 3 people who came to me within a week's period, and they all had really good business ideas. They all wanted to really do the work and be successful, but they didn't have the income to support the price point for private coaching. Mm-hmm. So I thought about it, and I started thinking about when I first started in my career in corporate, and then when I started as a coach, how I wanted to learn, and I was ready to do whatever the work was, but I couldn't necessarily afford the price points when I wasn't making the money to support it. And so I was really fortunate because I had people who were always willing to mentor me along the way, give me some good advice or direction. And so that's always been a big part of what I do in my work, no matter what I'm doing for a living, is to be able to give back in that way. So when these 3 people had shown up in that week, I started thinking about it, and I thought there's got to be a way to provide something that's affordable for people who really want to do good work without having to go into debt to do it. And I'm going to be really upfront, really honest. I am all for luxury masterminds. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I love it. I love the idea. But the truth is, it's not where I would choose to spend my money, because that's just not how I buy. I don't, but I don't dislike them. I think they're great. But if I'm gonna go on vacation, I want to go on vacation. I want to go on vacation and work. So that's just me. So that's why I started the mastermind, was because I really believe that for people who are starting out in business, you should still have access to information so that you can be successful without having to take a second out on your house to do it. Right. So let's talk a little bit about the content. So tell me, what do you like about the lessons and the format of the sessions? Let's start with you, Licia.
What I love about the lessons is that there is a variety of different topics that you cover, that it's all sort of, it's like all these puzzle pieces that are kind of hanging out above our heads as business owners. You bring them down and they make sense and make the full picture, and they're in these 20 to 30 minute bite-sized lessons, which are exactly perfect and not overwhelming. And you're always able to answer questions within that time. The content makes sense. It's easily then applied to the business for your, you give examples and suggestions, and then, it always comes together in that way. And I think a lot of times, especially for all of us as entrepreneurs, we have expertise. Like, my expertise is in sales. I know I can sell the holy crap out of things, but I don't have a lot of expertise in other areas. And so what I'm getting is that in these lessons, I am learning about all these other facets of business, and then I'm able to apply those lessons. I mean, it's like grad school for online marketing. You just go and you're like, all right, now I can actually do this business because I'm starting to get the big picture rather than one focused thing that I've been focusing on for the last year and a half or whatever. And I think that's been the greatest thing. So you do them in these bite-sized pieces that are manageable and applicable, and ultimately then are advanced and enhanced in the Facebook room with questions people have and expertise people have, and it's a very giving community that way.
Do you have a favorite lesson that comes to mind, or something that we talked about?
Well, I think really, so I have two favorite lessons. I think the first favorite lesson that I have is about law of attraction, and the stuff that you help us understand is how to feel your way into the success of your business. Like, actually understanding, not in a very non-woo-woo way, of how law of attraction is actually an energy exchange as you move forward in your business. And we all know this, right? When we put something out there and the market responds, that's business, but it's also this energy exchange of law of attraction. The other aspect, and the other one that I love, is your networking lessons. You are actually teaching people how to network effectively, how to get in touch effectively and authentically with others who can help them in their business. And that was a really eyes wide open thing of like how to utilize your network, how to network effectively. And I actually just put in a lot of those practices to an event I was at. It was a live event I was at here in Maine. And I thought of you because I was like, okay, what are my objectives for this networking event? I want to meet 3 new people. I also want to get my picture taken for the magazine. And I want to have one takeaway for the owner of the magazine so I can contact them about my book. And I did all of those things. And so, it was amazing because I was like, oh, I'm organized about this event. Normally I would have gone over, sat by the food, had some snacks, and talked to the people I already knew.
So when you walked away from that event, this is great feedback. When you walked away from that event, how did you feel? Did you feel differently than you normally do when you go to a networking event?
I did. I felt exhilarated. My friend who I was there with, we were both laughing because I made her make goals too, and it was a contest, and so we were both laughing because she's like, darn you got your picture taken and I didn't, it was so much more fun. Like, it made it so much more fun.
And that's the critical piece, because when we're doing, this is what a lot of people don't necessarily realize or think about when we decide to start a business, is how much work it really is. And even I went through a little bit of that when I left my corporate career, and I was running a sales segment. I had lots of great people who supported me in different areas of the business, and then suddenly I was in my own business, And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'll just send that off to legal. And I turn around and I'm like, there's no legal. Okay, I need someone to help me schedule my stuff. I'll just give it to my assistant. And I look down at the dog and I'm like, learn how to use a computer. So what happens is we end up working and we face, all of these different frustrations. But my feeling is, and I feel very strongly about this, if you're not having fun doing it, what's the point? I mean, really, because you're going to give so much of your life to it, you've got to enjoy it.
Right.
So that's why I like to teach from that perspective, because also when you're having fun, you're not as attached to the outcome, which releases the pressure, and that also helps get results. So how about you, Lisa? Tell me about, what do you like about the lessons and the format of the sessions?
The part that I like the most, which, by the way, I was brand new to anything woo when I joined the group. I mean, I had just met Lisa, actually, at a different event, and then, of course, her post led me to you, and then you kind of are in this, just a different way of approaching things. So that was kind of a nice, pleasant surprise, and I was able to look at things from another perspective, which I love to do. But the thing that I like the most about the lessons themselves are that you'll adapt and actually bring us stuff you feel we need as we progress. For example, we were having some hiccups with Facebook ads. There was a few of us that were frustrated with them earlier on, and you were like, well, I'll just grab a Facebook expert and he'll be our bonus call for the month, and that was awesome. And then the difficult conversations one that we recently did and that we're finishing up, that one was huge for me because I'm really non-confrontational, so I don't like to deal with that. It's like, can you just please just solve on your own problem already? So you were able to give us these really tangible scripts and ways of not just saying, hey, say this. It was think about why you need to say this, which I love too. That part, and there was a time too when I asked a question, and you asked me a question in return. This was actually in the Facebook group. And I was frustrated when I first read your response. Wait a minute, she's not telling me, she's not giving me an answer. I want an answer. But what you were doing, what I realized was she's trying to get me to think differently. She's trying to get me to think differently because I need to know how to do this if she's not around. And I have to say thank you so much for that because it's huge. You have to be able to do more than just respond or react the way somebody else would. You have to have it come from you. And the lessons inadvertently are doing that, at least for me. That's what I love that they're doing that for me. So that's my big takeaway.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, I mean, having hard conversations. Listen, I've done it for 180 years, and it never gets easier. They're just because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable when you're the person who's starting the difficult conversation. It's uncomfortable when you're on the receiving end. There is nothing fun about that. But when you can look at it from what we did in the session, look at it from the other person's point of view and really what your intention is, it really does shape not just the delivery of the message, but how it's received. Mm-hmm. How about you, Shannon? What do you like most about the sessions and the content?
I don't want to be too reiterate what they've said, but just the same thing that you customize for what we are needing, so I don't feel like you're just spoon-feeding us the same stuff. It's what we really are in need of. I loved the networking lessons. It was the series of 3, just made total sense the way you broke it down. It just, like Lisa said, it was like these connections I have right in front of me that I have had for years and all the different levels of connections. I'm like, I never thought about someone who might appear impossible for me to connect with, and then also someone like my mom who's always cheering me on. Like, how can I take their support of my work and have that help me succeed? So that was a really powerful lesson.
Oh, good.
I really appreciate that you give us some information prior to when we get together as a group so I can look it over and I can kind of see what's coming so I don't just get on the call and I'm blindsided. I really appreciate that as well.
Great. Now I'm watching the time, so we're at the halfway point. So I do have more questions, and with me, it's never an interview or a conversation unless we throw in a little 5 and 5 kind of stuff. So I want to make sure that we have time for people who do have questions. So we may go back and forth a little bit. If we have time to do another question, then we will. But here's one that we're going to do now. So, and I'm going to start with Shannon because Shannon, you're on my big screen right now. So choose one. It's muy importante or numero uno.
Numero uno.
Okay. And, okay, so I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock.
Okay.
And you're all going to answer the same question, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to cheat so you can think about your answer. What's the single most important thing you want people to take away from this discussion? So it can be related to the mastermind, but it doesn't have to be. Really focus on the person who's out there who's ready to hear something that's meant just for them. So, Shannon, I'm going to have you start in 3, 2, 1. 60 seconds. Go.
The thing that comes to me, if you're like me and you've taken all these classes, I've taken all these different virtual classes and I've made all these wonderful connections and I've filled my life and my business with knowledge, it's time to implement. It's time to sit down and start taking all that you know and start really putting it in place. And that's what this mastermind group can help you, just to start focusing on that and getting that direction from other people. And Gina, you're amazing. You know I love you, and you've been just a godsend to me. So if you're thinking, I've got all this information and you're still not moving forward in your business, it's time to really put all that you know into place. And this is a good place to do that.
Great. Thank you. Okay, who wants to go next? Lisa or Alicia? I'll let you pick.
I'll go ahead. You can't do it by yourself. It's impossible. You will either have zero time for you and your self-care will go down the toilet, or you'll alienate all your friends and family because you won't stop talking about your business. The biggest thing for me would be that because you can't do it by yourself, you need a group of support group, and this is the perfect opportunity to have that.
Great, thank you. Okay, Morelli, you're up. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is your A game. Here's what I'll say, and you know this about me. I am an action taker. That does not necessarily mean that all of my action taking is organized and effective. I think what this mastermind, and this is the number one important thing, is if people are thinking about a mastermind, they want to take action. This is a way to have organized, effective, and authentic action-taking steps in your business to create results, to see where you're going. If you're ready to really up-level your game, this is the group to do it in. This is going to be the organizational tool, the support tool, the learning tool that you need to actually implement, like Shannon said, all of those courses that you've taken, all of that knowledge base that you have, and you're going to get organized and you're going to streamline, and suddenly you're going to start seeing the results over and over and over again because you've got the support, you've got the education, and you've got the community.
Thank you. So how about if we go ahead and we open it up for questions, so as people are submitting their questions, and here's what I'm going to tell everybody who's watching. This is your first lesson. This is your first mastermind lesson. As much as I would love to tell you that I do everything by myself and I've got it like a well-oiled machine, the truth is I know what I'm good at and I know where I need help. And where I need help is always on the tech side. So Lisa's been kind enough to help out. And so if you see me asking her questions, it's because I need her desperately to help me if I get stuck on anything. So while we're waiting for people to jump in and ask some questions, let me ask another thing that I think is important to address. When I first put together this program, one of the things that I wasn't sure about was how people would respond to a weekly meeting. I know for me, I like to have flexibility in my time, in my day. I don't like to feel tied down. So I know for me, I wasn't sure how people would feel about an hour a week, every week for 6 months. I mean, that's a real commitment. But what really has surprised me is how committed all of you have been, like showing up week after week and not missing. I mean, a lot of you have not even missed one session. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's been manageable? And I'll just open it up to any of you.
Well, I felt like you put the importance on that, which I really appreciated, because I appreciate that my group mates are there for me, and it's important that I'm there for them as well. And then because you set the precedence right from the very beginning, I just put that in my Google Cal, and it's my set time every week. So I scheduled around it. It was, yeah. So I just know that was really important. And not only do I appreciate the women who are supporting me in my group of 4, but I want to be there for them too.
Which is great. What about? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, for me, the timing is great because, like Shannon said, you schedule it in your appointment calendar, and it's there, and it's a commitment. And frankly, if you can't commit to an hour a week to think about your business, to coordinate about your business, to learn something about your business, then you're in trouble.
I was like, oh, I feel a little shamed. I'm like, okay, that gave me a different perspective.
You go, Alicia, you're right.
No, it's true. It's true. And I want to, give Lisa an opportunity to respond too. But what I find is how, everyone is so great about showing up on time and staying focused through that hour. And they think because of that, that's why everyone gets such great results, because everyone really shows up. How about you, Lisa? Have you ever found it challenging to show up week after week, or what makes it, what drives you and keeps you motivated to do it?
Well, I actually thought of it in the vein of to touch on what Shannon and Licia said. I added it to my calendar. It just was an appointment I had to keep. I scheduled around it. I felt like it was 1 hour, at least 1 hour a week I'm dedicating to my business. And I viewed it as kind of like having lunch or doing a meetup with some fellow entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of positioned it that way. And the only time that I thought would be an issue was when I went on vacation and I was traveling internationally. But I actually still managed to make the calls because, I don't know, I just felt like I just told my family, like, hey, for 1 hour I'm ducking out. I got to take care of this. Went into a quiet room, did the call, and came out. I don't know, I was committed to the group, and I felt like if I wasn't there, I'd let them down, and that I'd let you down too. So, I don't know, that's kind of how I approached it. It wasn't, and it wasn't an overwhelming amount of time. It's not like you're having to do this for like 4 hours at a time, right? This is 1 hour. It's not complicated.
And we really do work to start on time and end on time. I know sometimes we'll go over, 5 to 7 minutes if we're really in a groove, but it's really important to me to honor everyone else's time, because it is a weekly commitment. I have found, I don't know if this has been your experience, it sounds like it has, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I've also found that it makes a difference when you genuinely enjoy the people who you're spending time with. And it's funny because as groups get bigger, you always, especially when you have a big group, you always wonder if people always talk about, there's always one. But I honestly, and I'm not saying this just because I'm saying it because it's true, it's really true, is that there isn't anyone in this community that falls into that. Like, everyone really is supportive and wants to do a good job and has the best of intentions with their participation, but also how they show up for the rest of the group. And I think that in itself is extraordinary, because you guys make that happen. I mean, I could tell you all the time how to get value out of it, but you guys are the ones who show up week after week, and that's why you get such great results. So I know I tend to be a little bit of, I'm used to being in the moderator seat and not in the being interviewed seat because I tend to do the interviews on a regular basis when I'm doing 5 and 5. But I want to give you guys a chance where if you want to interview me a little bit, or a question that I haven't answered for the people who are watching that you think we need to address, go ahead and you can put me on the spot as well, as my heart is beating out of my chest for a half a second. Because I don't know what you're going to ask me.
Well, I want to start by just saying, I'm so excited for you to be doing this call today, because you really are, there is something about the behind-the-scenes supporter that you are, Gina. You really want the best for everybody in their business, and you are as people are in the parading by, you are right there supporting them, clapping, cheering for them, and really, really, helping them get into that spotlight, get into that sort of mode of success. So I love that you're doing this call, because it's really highlighting you, and it's really highlighting your capability as a teacher and a professional. And I'm so excited to be able to do that. One question that I have for you is, what do you find that you gain every week from the groups, and like what you've gained over the course of the last 5 months with this mastermind, and how you've learned and grown and evolved?
Wouldn't it be funny if I said not a single
Nothing.
Here's the honest to God truth. I learn from all of you every single day. And there are times when we're in the sessions and I'll have an idea that I'll share with somebody who's in, we'll call it the hot seat, we call it taking center stage. And for those of you watching, the reason we call it taking center stage was to take the pressure off of being put in the quote-unquote hot seat. But the feedback I've gotten is, well, taking center stage feels really scary too. But what I find is when we're masterminding someone's business, I may have what I think is a great way to do something, but then one of you will show up with a response or an idea, and I'm so blown away because I think, wow, like I couldn't have thought of that. Like that's what I love, is that I get to learn from you guys too. And it's really, really fun for me when you guys get a breakthrough. There is nothing better to me than when I get that email or I see that Facebook post or a phone call that says, oh my God, I did this and I got that. Because to me, it's just as good as if it happened to me personally. It is so much fun for me to watch all of you succeed. It really, I can't think of anything better, to be quite honest with you.
I love it.
Anybody else have a question for me?
I've been surprised at the diversity of what you're teaching us. Like sometimes I'm like, what don't you know? Like, is she studying every weekend trying to find more things to teach us? So and I hope you're not, I'm curious, how do you just come up with such a wealth of ideas? Because I know you're accommodating us, the different groups. So how do you do that?
I think, thank you for saying that. I think that a couple of things. One is I do have a lot of business experience. I started out early on in my work career in an entry-level position, and I worked my way up. I started out as a clerk typist until I became part of an executive leadership team for a major Fortune 500 company. And what I will say is it was the best training I ever got, because I learned every facet of the business, like just customer service, operations, marketing, sales, business planning, and finance, and things like that. I also learned what I was good at and what I was not good at. So here's the truth. If somebody out there is looking to set up a website and you want me to tell you how to do it, I am not the person to do it, because I will tell you how to mess up a website. But if you want to know how to make that website convert so that you can get sales and sustainability in your business, that's where I excel. The other thing is I listen. I really listen to what my clients are saying and what their needs are, because it's important to me. It's so important to me that, and I said this to all of you in the very, very first session, and even with the second round, the same conversation. It's so important to me that everyone who participates in this program walks away feeling like it was a good use of time and money, and that you got a solid return on investment. If you don't walk away with that, I feel like I have failed. So I'm in it with you because I really want you guys to succeed. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. Lisa, how about you?
Yeah, I have a question. I feel like, and just to mimic a little bit of what Licia said, as far as I'm just glad you're doing the call, because now I feel like everybody gets to meet you. The other thing I want to say is, how did you come up with this structure? Because this is the first time I've ever encountered a mastermind that's set up like this, and I feel like you should copyright it if it's not already copyrighted, because it's like a really cool way, right, to kind of get something that's doable, manageable, and cost-effective. So I have to ask you how this came about as far as the structure itself goes, and yeah, I mean, because I'm sure some people will probably want to mimic it, I would think.
Well, and I'll be really honest, in the very beginning, I was not a fan of paid masterminds because, again, I think that people should be able to have access to information to be successful in their business without always having to pay for it. But the reason why I decided to do a paid mastermind was because I did a lot of research to understand the differences between the two and why people charged for masterminds. Now I understand, because when you are facilitating and there is a teaching component, you need to be compensated for that, because there is a lot of prep work that goes into it. So what I did was I did a lot of research and looked at lots of different types of masterminds and what I thought would work well and what I didn't think would work well, and I created an outline, and then I started testing it with people. I would, in fact, Alicia was one of those people where I said, here's what I'm thinking. I want to run through the structure with you. Tell me what you think. What would you commit to? What turns you on? What turns you off? And that, as I talked to her and I talked to a few other people, that's how we were able to develop the format. Now, I'll tell you really honestly, when it comes to law of attraction, in the beginning, I'm a certified law of attraction coach, but I had no desire to share that with the public. I was perfectly happy in my little closet studying law of attraction by myself and playing these games and being a weirdo. But I always used it. I always used it in my life since I was a kid and stuff. But I was totally fine keeping it to myself and it being my thing. But what I started to find was that there were people when I was coaching clients who would say, oh, you know law of attraction? If I'd known that sooner, I would have hired you sooner. So then I started to sneak my way out of it, but I thought there has to be a way to do it so it doesn't sound woo, because for me, that's not where my comfort level is. I'm interested in it, but to teach from that place, I think there are other ways to do it in business, because sometimes what happens is people have a hard time tapping or connecting the energy part with the work part, with the business part, because we're taught that business is very separate from energy work in a lot of ways, or in the traditional sense. So I try to do it in a way where it's non-threatening, where people can really get the results and learn from it without getting caught up like what I was doing in the whole woo part of it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, only because I have to say one of my biggest takeaways, like I'll have takeaways from you, things that you say that I want to remember later on. And one of the first ones that falls in line with the woo, the law of attraction, the whole enchilada, was when I said I hated money in a session one time. I said, I hate money. It stresses me out. I don't like it. And you were like, how are you going to get any if you hate it? You know, that whole thing just flipped it for me. And so I have to say thanks for that, because it changed.
You're welcome. It's really, here's what I think the key thing is, it's really about just looking at things in a different way, looking at it from another perspective. Because the reality is, when we're looking at an issue that's going on in someone's business, when we change the view of it, the problem doesn't change, but the way we see the potential to solve it, that's what changes. And if you can get people to look, I always use the analogy of a snow globe, that when you're looking at a snow globe, you're looking at it from one direction, but if you turn the snow globe, then you see a different part of the scene. So it's the same thing when we're looking at business. So I see we have a question, so I'm going to transition into that, from Tracy Neely. Hi, Tracy. So she's saying, thank you for this webinar and your guests. Okay, so she just finished a year-long certification, and she sees how valuable it is to stay in action by joining a mastermind. Okay, are there recordings of the calls? Okay, well, first of all, let me just say, Tracy is going to Europe, so everybody pack your bags, because we're all going with her. Or at least I am. It's a surprise. I'm sure she's very surprised. And so she's asking if the calls are recorded, how do we determine which month someone is in the hot seat? Okay, great questions. So yes, the calls are recorded. Every call, we have a recording that goes out at the end of the session. So I send it out the same day. There are a couple of things that I love about recording in the call. One is it's a great way for, like, if you happen to, have to miss because you're in Europe having a great time with me. If you're in Europe and you can't get on the call, you want to be able to go back and listen. But the other thing that's really great is that when you're on the call, it's great to be able to take notes if you're a note taker, but sometimes I know for me, it's better for me to just listen, and then I can go back to the recording and then pull the notes and get into my head in a different way, so that I'm really absorbing the information differently. So to answer your question, yes, those recordings do happen, and they go out the same day. And then the second question is, how do you determine which month someone is in the hot seat? Okay, so each group has a maximum of 4 people. And the reason why we do it with a maximum of 4 people is because it's really important to me that each person in each group gets to take center stage or be in the hot seat once a month, which means we focus on your business and your business challenge once a month. So if you have to, we've had this happen where someone's been out of town and they end up trading weeks, or they have to miss for a different reason. So I'm really flexible that way, but I want to make sure that you're consistently getting time in the hot seat so that we can work on your business. How long are the recordings available? Another good question. So I just have them, I set them up so that they're downloadable, and then you have the recording and you can download it and you can keep it forever and ever and ever. So how's that? Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. So let's do I'm going to do a quick game. So we'll do a fun little game. So I'm going to call it one word. So I'm going to ask each of you one word, and I'll give you the prompt, and then you tell me what comes to mind. So, Licia, since your face is big on my screen right now, give me one word to describe the Mastermind program.
The first word that came to me was joyful.
Okay, great. How about you, Lisa?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is affordable. Which is, I don't know. It's a terrible thing to say, but yeah, affordable.
How about you?
The first word that came to mind for me was brilliant.
Ah, nice.
Full of brilliance, everybody. Especially
Okay, so since I'm on you, what's one word to describe your accountability partner?
Was that me?
Shannon, I think.
Shannon.
So sorry, Shannon.
I was going to say perfect. We're just a perfect fit. And we just feed off each other well and support each other. Yeah, it's good pairing.
That's so nice. How about you two? What's your word?
Mine's supportive, for sure. 100% supportive.
Licia?
Authentic.
For Licia. Hang on, I'm going to switch gears. What's one word to describe the Facebook group?
Knowledge base. That's 2 words, but I don't care.
Rule breaker.
I know, I'm like, attitude?
I don't know why I was so feisty about that. I'm not sure. I think because I was like, I can't say knowledge. That doesn't make any sense. It's knowledge base. It's like a total knowledge base of information. Like there's so much information going on.
Okay, so this one's for all of you, so I'm going to go to each one of you. Give me one word to describe your business before you started the program, and then give me one word to describe your business now. So let's start with you, Shannon.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or if one of you has your answer.
My first word that came up, and I'm going to break the rules like Licio, is train wreck. That's how I felt with my business. I felt like a freaking train wreck. Now I feel on top of the world. I feel on purpose. I'm throwing all sorts of words out there. You can't limit me. I do. I feel like so on purpose. And yeah, it's wonderful.
And how about you, Lisa?
Confused, probably, would be the confused because I am a jack of all trades, so I had this confusion going in, and now it's very much clarity.
And Licia?
I was floating. I was definitely floating, and what I mean by that is like I was achieving success, but I wasn't necessarily like doing anything. I was like it was like a hobby still. I didn't realize how much I'm expounding. You only asked for one word. Sorry. I was floating. I was floating, and now I am strong. Like I am really grounded and strong. So I think like that's the shift for me.
That's a great feeling. Really great feeling. So we've got just a couple minutes left, so I want to just, if anybody has a final question, now's your time to ask. But aside from that, do you guys have anything else that you want everyone to know? I want to make sure that everyone knows the deadline to respond is August 31st, and spots are filling up. The spots started, here's what happened. The first time I did it, it sold out before there was any sales copy written. Then I had some people who came and asked if I would start one off cycle instead of waiting till September. So I went ahead and spread the word and got another round started. So this round actually is with an official launch, but people were already asking, so some of those spots are filling up. So my suggestion is, if you are interested in the mastermind, that you want to get in on it sooner rather than later. If you have questions or you want to talk through any of it, let me know. I'm happy to hop on a call with you or Skype or whatever, and we can talk through whatever's on your mind. You'll find I'm not into the heavy sales pitch approach. I think that this is such a personal decision about whether or not you're ready to make the commitment, and this is right for you. So you won't hear me try to close a sale or, you know, pressure you to sign up, because I want it to be right for you and I want you to be fully committed. But for the rest of you who are here, is there anything else you guys want to say before we wrap up?
It's the best thing I could have ever done for my business.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. I ditto that.
I can't ditto it again. Gina, it's nice. I want to say, too, that it's nice to have you focused on today as well. You're such a background person, and you deserve to be in the limelight, and it's an honor to be on this panel. It really was the best decision for me, too. I can honestly say, had I not done this mastermind group, I probably would have given up on my business over the summer. I probably would be out of business. I was just that lost and overwhelmed and feeling like a big failure.
Well, I'm so glad you didn't give up on your business, because look what's happened. And there are a lot of people out there who we're ready, needing what you have to offer.
I've had clients in 3 different countries now since then. I've paid off 2 credit cards. I took my kids on this great vacation, stress-free of money. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thanks to all of you for being here. I really appreciate that you all showed up to answer questions and be accessible to people who are considering the mastermind. It really means a lot to me that you did that, because I know you didn't have to, but I'm deeply, deeply grateful from the bottom of my heart. And for those of you who have taken time to be on the call with us or are watching the replay, thanks so much for being here. I know that your time is valuable, so I really appreciate that you chose to spend it with us. And again, the cart closes on the 31st, so if you have questions or comments or something on your mind, don't hesitate to reach out. So that about does it for us. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.